Now that you know in detail how ARP works and how ARP poisoning is performed, let's launch the attack. The attack is possible on both wired and wireless networks. My setup in this video is to launch the attack on the wireless network, and I have a Linux Mint installed in a VM on Windows 10. It's important that the Wi-Fi network to be set to bridged mode. So, in VirtualBox or in VMware, go to Networks and check that it's attached to the bridged adapter. Okay. In this lab, I'm gonna use a tool called Ettercap, which is the default tool used to attack ARP. Other interesting tools that do the same are ARP Spoof, Man-in-the-Middle Framework, or Ettercap. We'll take a deeper look at Ettercap, which is an advanced hacking tool, in the next lectures. You find Ettercap in Kali Linux already installed, or you can install it on any other Linux distribution. It's a common security application that belongs to the standard repositories. If you don't use Kali and use Ubuntu or other similar distribution, you can install it using apt. This is Linux Mint, which is based on Ubuntu, and I'll show you how to install Ettercap just in case you don't use Kali. There are both a text-only and a GUI-enabled version of Ettercap. As root, I'm executing apt search Ettercap. This is Ettercap GUI-enabled executable, and this is the text-only version. In this video, I'll use the text-only version. Maybe you want to run Ettercap from a machine that doesn't have a graphical interface installed, or you are connected using SSH on the machine where you want it to start. And to install it, I run apt install Ettercap text-only. Perfect, it has been installed. In this attack, I want to poison the ARP cache of both the router and the Windows machine which I used to record this video. It will be the victim. The IP address of the router is 192.168.0.1, and the IP address of Windows is this one, 192.168.0.103. Okay, I am executing the attack. Ettercap -t -m ARP / the victim 192.168.0.103 double slashes and the default gateway. In fact, this is the second victim. I'm not hitting enter yet. I want to explain to you some things. -t means text-only interface, and -m means man-in-the-middle attack of type ARP poisoning. This option will activate the man-in-the-middle attack, which is totally independent from the sniffing. The aim of the attack is to hijack packets and redirect them to Ettercap. Then the sniffing engine will forward them to the real destination. Everything will be transparent to the victims. Before starting the attack, let's see the ARP cache of the victim. ARP -a. And we notice the IP and the MAC address of the router, but there is not the Linux IP and MAC address. That's because it hasn't learned it yet. And I'll ping the Linux machine to generate an ARP request and reply packets. So it will learn the MAC address of the Linux machine. Ping, and let's see the IP address of Linux. If config. Okay, this is the IP address of Linux, and I'm pinging it. Let's check the ARP table again. Perfect. It has learned the MAC address of Linux. This is the IP address of the default gateway and its MAC address, and the IP address of Linux and its MAC address. Let's start the attack. I am hitting the Enter key. ARP poisoning victims and starting unified sniffing. It has started the unified sniffing, which means it will sniff all the packets that pass on the medium. Note that I had some issues with Kali Linux, so if you get this error, try to install another Linux distribution like Ubuntu or Linux Mint and see if it works. Please get in touch with me if you don't make it work and I'll assist you with this. Let's return to the attack. We suppose that everything ran smoothly and we move ahead. I'll go to Windows and see the ARP table again. And surprise! We notice that both the default gateway and the attacker have the same MAC address saved in ARP cache. This is the MAC address of the attacker in the previous ARP-A command, and the same MAC address is bound to both the default gateway and the hacker. This is what ARP poisoning does. The ARP cache has been poisoned. Now let's visit a website from the victim machine. I have chosen vulnweb.com, which is a site that hosts intentionally vulnerable applications to understand how programming and configuration errors lead to security breaches. It was created for the purpose of manual penetration testing or for educational purposes. Feel free to use it to test how ARP poisoning works. And I'll access the last URL, which is in fact a blog. And then on login, I'll try to log in. Back to the hacker's computer, I'll start Wireshark. Capture, options, the interface, and start. And on the victim machine, I'll log in to that website. Hacker, and the password will be test1234, and I'm clicking login. The authentication was not successful, but this is not important at this moment. Let's move to the hacker's machine and see the intercepted traffic. I'll stop capturing packets. These are the packets sent between the victim and the website, and there should also be the credentials I've just entered. I'm filtering for HTTP packets. We notice that this isn't an encrypted connection. It's using HTTP and not HTTPS. Let's click on an HTTP packet with the mouse right button and then follow and HTTP stream. And in this window, we see the HTTP packets sent between client and server, which contain also the username and password. Look here, username hacker, password test 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, we have successfully launched this man-in-the-middle attack and captured sensitive data. My advice to you is to never use unencrypted connections like HTTP, Telnet, SMTP, or FTP. This is an unencrypted connection. It's not secure. A malicious user could sniff your traffic and sensitive data very easily. To stop the attack, you press on Q in the terminal where Ettercap is running. And it's simply re-ARPing the victims. You've just learned how to launch ARP spoofing attacks of type man-in-the-middle on any wired or wireless network. In the next lecture, we'll dive deeper into ARP spoofing, and I'll show you other advanced hacking tools and how to bypass HTTPS and sniff encrypted traffic. See you in a few seconds.